Yo, what's going on, everybody? Today we're going to do some work on my 1995 Buick Century. Pretty rad little story. I used to have this car when I was in high school. Not this exact same car, but same model, make. The year is different, but same color, same interior. And my wife picked one up for me this year as a surprise earlier in the year. And I thoroughly enjoy driving this thing. It is clean and it drives beautifully. But recently I've noticed that the temperature is not going all the way up to where it needs to, a proper running temperature. So I picked up a thermostat and some coolant hoses, and I've determined that we're gonna try a thermostat to see if that solves that riddle. The hoses are just old anyways. I'm pretty sure that everything is pretty stock on this. So right now, let me show you where I'm at. I've brought it into my garage and I've already got it up on jack stands and properly safe to, well, safe for me, I think, to go underneath and work on it. So let's take a look and see what we've got going on here. Okay, so this is the 95 Buick Century I was talking about. And as you can see, I have taken off the intake or at least the intake hose, and I've taken off the cap and I've opened up my coolant reservoir. I have this thing on jack stands. It is quite refreshing, but what I've done here is I've jacked the car up. Let me get under here. I've jacked the car up on some jack stands. Shout out to Harbor Freight. They're not the Widowmakers, they've been changed out. But inside, in the core support here, it's kind of almost done dripping out. But you can see that there's a little plug, little drain plug, and what I've done is just cracked it. You just crack it. It's a little plastic plug. Some of them have a 19mm hex on them, but with this one I just got a set of pliers and I just cracked it open. So what we're doing now is we are gonna let the fluid drain out. You can see that the coolant is pretty clean. It is not the GM orange, so before you flame me in the comments, I know this is just your typical 50-50 mixture. And so that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna let that drain out. And then my goal for today is I'm gonna replace this upper radiator hose, and we are gonna get in here and get a thermostat off and put a fresh thermostat in. I have some kind of tricks and tips that I'm gonna try to get this thing get this thermostat out without having to remove too much stuff. So you and I will figure this out together. And yeah, but this is it. It's 60,000 miles, 95, 3.1 liter. And she's a driving some bitch. Excuse my language. And yeah, so picked up a thermostat here. Nothing crazy, $10 at O'Reilly's Auto Parts. Picked up a upper radiator hose. Here's the part number from O'Reilly's Auto Parts if you're interested. And some Master Flow clamps. So shouldn't be too intense. This is that upper intake hose I was talking about. Shouldn't be super intense. I'm gonna continue to let this drain out and we will switch you back and show you what we've got going on. Okay, so we're back. So where I'm at now is basically still letting that coolant drain. I'm draining it into like a dollar store oil pan that was clean. So it only holds about 5 quarts of oil. So as you can imagine, it filled up pretty quickly. So what I did was I just closed that plug that I mentioned that we're draining from, and I went ahead and dumped that original amount of coolant that came out into a 5-gallon bucket. Now, originally I was thinking about reusing the same coolant, but after going through all this, I'm just gonna go buy a fresh thing of coolant. We'll start fresh, new thermostat, new hoses, and new coolant. So still draining the coolant now, and I will show you what else we've got going on. So again, while we're still waiting, what I went ahead and done is, and yes, I'm using a stick to hold up my hood because the old strut's a little tired. So what I've done is I've unplugged these plugs here. We've got the mass airflow sensor, the idle air controller, and this little guy down here, which has this little super old school plug. And then of course, the one that comes off of the intake ducting itself. What I've done is I've just kind of zipped them all together. And then on top of that, I went ahead and loosened this hose clamp And then I've also loosened this hose clamp from the top. I've already started to shimmy this down, which is great. There shouldn't be any real resistance of this hose coming off. Once the hose is off, we'll take a look at it and see. One of the reasons why I'm changing this upper hose, to be a little bit more specific, and maybe you're experiencing this, and I'm not a professional by any means, but my understanding is that when you are, when your car is on, the hose should be kind of hard, not necessarily super squishy once it's at full temperature. So with my vehicle, it is at full temperature, as hot as it can get with the thermostat that's weak. It's very, very spongy, and I know that to be not correct. And then when I turn it off, it gets like stiff. So again, not a professional here. I could be barking up a wrong tree, but my theory is, let's do the hose. Well, if I'm doing the hose, let's do a fresh thermostat and see if we can, get that to feel a little bit better, and obviously get the car up to running temperature. I'm located here in Central Florida, so it is like December 16th today. And so the cooler weather's coming. Typically, my wife and I like to drive around the week of Christmas, and we go do like the Christmas light thing. It's like a tradition. We get a coffee, and we typically drive this piece of shit here. But this year, we want to drive the Buick, right? We want to take a look at the Christmas lights. We want to get some hot chocolate and some coffee and just do old people stuff. So that's really why I'm trying to get this thing prepared and ready to rock and roll, because aside from that, I really enjoy driving it. Oh, and also I did notice initially, a couple weeks ago, I noticed that there was a little bit of a coolant leak. Forgive me, I don't have the greatest camera setup here, but there was a coolant leak coming down, running down the radiator. I've determined that to potentially be, after letting it kind of sit and dry things off, I think that this hose is just tired, and so now it's seeping out the top. You can also see it's really wet there in this area, right? And so a bunch of trial and error, but that's what we're doing. Excuse the hand transitions, but that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to just get it up and running. I'm not trying to throw a bunch of money into this car. I just want to enjoy it for what it is. Of course, I'd like to do some custom stuff to it, maybe some air suspension, custom roof pattern, and kind of build, some sort of a custom, but a modern custom to me. But I won't put any kind of money into this thing unless I know that it can get me to and from California with no problem, right? Because I'm not in the business of building a model car. I'm not going to build something and just let it sit in my garage. It's got to drive. So that's where we're at. So stay tuned, see what happens. Okay, we're back. Cool. So after messing around with it for a little while, I've got all the coolant drained out. So what I'm going to do now is crawl back underneath, and I will tighten up that plastic plug that I mentioned that I drained the radiator from initially. And I think because I'm at this point right now in juncture, I'm going to try and maybe give it a radiator flush, and I'll show you why. So I'm thinking the coolant is fairly green, but it does have like a little bit of what I would think to be a little bit of rust in there, possibly in the radiator. So if I'm already here, why the hell not? So again, this is the upper radiator hose that we're gonna replace with new clamps, but take a ride with me. If you crawl underneath the car, what I'm gonna do now is not swallow, oh my God, coolant tastes like shit. What I'm gonna do is try to crack this bad boy right here and see if I can't put a hose up top and just go ahead and start flushing her out and get rid of all of that unnecessary bull stuff that's in there. So stay tuned, see how this goes. Okay, so we're back. I've got a long flathead here, and what I'm gonna attempt to do is, let me see if I can make sense of this. We're gonna look and try to grab that guy on that lower radiator hose. I don't have a smaller, thinner version of a flathead in the length that I have. So my hope is that I should be able to touch that. Now, to be honest, I can't film this and do it at the same time. Also, I'm filming on an iPhone 12 Pro Max for now. I have a nice camera and I have a GoPro, so I'll mix things up. But if anybody knows if there's a way to flip from the front camera and the rear camera while filming on an iPhone, let me know. I think you can do it on Instagram video, but I don't feel like filming everything on an Instagram video and saving it. But if I have to do that, I will. So let's get this thing cracked open. We're gonna have a drain pan on the bottom, of course, to get any residual fluid out, and then we're gonna put a hose on this bad boy and flush this thing out. Okay, so I went ahead and removed the hose clamp on the lower radiator hose, to which I just showed you. I have my very small drain bucket down there. It's not gonna do much, we know that, right? So anyways, what I'm gonna do, I've got my hose ready running out in the driveway, just kind of cleaning that because I don't want to put any calcium where I live. Sometimes we have hard water, so it's always important for me to let the hose run a second. Again, this could be the wrong way, don't flame me, but the idea here is just to give it a little flush, right? This isn't a Maserati, okay? I just need this thing to cool itself down appropriately, and so I figured if I'm here and I'm doing all of this, might as well just go ahead and give this a try. I don't know what to expect, but I put a little light down here. You should kind of be able to see the water. I have it at a low pressure, and we are going to bring the hose in and just see what happens. I don't know what to expect. I haven't flushed a radiator personally since I was in high school. I'm 37 now. It's been a couple years, so bear with me. I'm gonna get the hose. Hold on. Also, I'm fully aware that you would typically not do this in your garage, but here in Florida today, it's getting to bring in some cooler weather, colder weather for mid-December, so it's raining out. So we're gonna do this in the garage. So nothing a little squeeze you can't fix up later. So I have it kinked up pretty decently, and I'm just gonna start to just send a little water down. And we should see, hopefully, some flushing taking place. It looks pretty clear, so I'm not concerned. Okay. I know that wasn't very long, but yeah, we're making progress. We'll do a little bit more. Again, I don't know if this is going through the whole entire radiator, but I'm also going to try to send it through that side too. So I'm pretty sure now, thinking about it out loud, that's what I got to do. But whatever, we'll flush this chamber side first, and then I'll remove that hose again fully, and we'll flush it that way. Okay, cool. So now that I think I've been doing this the wrong way, I'm going to go ahead and put this down for a second and remove the radiator hose of the upper radiator hose I'm replacing, and I'm going to see if I can send some water down that way to get a better flush. So bear with me. Okay, so now after doing that, obviously we need that water to come from this side of the radiator and do its thing. Duh, like I mentioned previously, it's been a long time. So I remove the upper radiator hose here, and I'll get you guys a better clip here. For the sake of videoing, I'm just going to leave you on the tripod, but the mass airflow sensor is exposed at this point, so I went ahead and put a couple Walmart bags over there. I don't intend to come in here slinging water, but you never know. And then of course the air filter. So again, shout out to Wally World for providing the bags. And so now I'm going to go get the hose again, and we're going to see if this does anything. I'm going to put the hose through the inlet here, and my hope is that it gets through the radiator and does one little quick flush. Again, we should see it coming out this way. Once I feel confident in that, we'll let it flush through a second or two. Then we're going to get into the real meat and potatoes. I'll set you up on a tripod. We'll time lapse the or some kind of videotaping, but we'll work on getting that thermostat, which should be interesting, and then of course the upper radiator hose, which I'm not concerned about. So let me get the hose. Okay, so this one again, I'm gonna do it from this side. And what I'm gonna do is just, again, I propped the hose up top. I didn't take it off all the way. Maybe I should have, I don't know. But again, I'm just gonna kind of put this hose here ever so gently on this inlet. And I'm gonna see if I can't let off on this water and see if it starts flushing. Looks like we're getting a little bit of a stream already, which is good. There we go. And all I'm doing is I'm just kind of letting off of this. I'm not letting it go full force because I am in my garage and I don't want to create a mess. But yeah. Again, I don't know if this is necessary, but if I'm this far, why not? You know, it's raining out. What else I got going on? Okay, so it's making its way all the way through. And from what I'm seeing is nice, clean green coolant coming out. And some clear water. And I'm going to give it a little bit more pressure now. There we go. And yeah, that water is crystal clear coming out of there. So I think we have successfully flushed the radiator. Before those people in the comments tell me that I should be using distilled water, or if that's even a thing, thank you. But again, I'm in my garage today. I do have access to a shop, which you'll see at some point, but today we're at home and this is what we got going on. So I feel good about that. We're gonna put the hose back outside, turn it off, and then bring you in a little closer, and we are gonna actually start to get this repair done for that hose and the thermostat. Okay, cool, so we're back. All right, so again, just to catch up, obviously in the last clip you saw, but we flushed it out. I went ahead and I put the lower radiator hose clamp back on, got that nice and tight. So inspecting that hose previously, it doesn't feel like it needs to be replaced. I checked it while the car was hot. It didn't feel like super spongy. It actually felt like it had some rigidity to it, if you will, for a better lack of terminology here. So I'll just keep an eye on that. So right now we're gonna focus on getting the upper radiator hose done lastly, but before that, I've got to fight the thermostat. Now you're saying, what do you mean by fight, Diener? Like, what does that mean? Let me show you. Okay, so just to kind of catch everybody back up, obviously upper radiator hose, I went ahead and did my due diligence and took it off. The inlet connects to there, and as you know, it goes there. It looks like that. I have no intentions on reutilizing this hose, so what I did is just took a box cutter. Once I removed the hose clamp from this side, this one was, you know, pretty good on that inlet, good and tight, which is good. That's a good sign. I just went ahead and cut it off. We're not utilizing that, so that's where she'll live. But, so it's hard to see, but down in there is where I need to access the thermostat, and it's back there. So it's gonna take a little bit of finagling. One of the tricks and tips that I did see, I can't take any credit for this, shout out to the YouTube Academy, is if you get yourself a drill, it's gonna be a 10mm bit. I saw this guy, he just kind of backed this heat shield off without losing that bolt, okay? Maybe not so much torquing, not torquing, but torquing. So we took this heat shield bolt, keep an eye on your bolts. We're gonna put those here. But from my understanding is what this will do is it comes off and it allows you to have a little bit of wiggle room potentially, because this heat shield is actually kind of in the way of the bottom bolt on the area where the thermostat is located. So if you take a look down in there, you'll see that bolt head is where I need to be essentially. And then underneath there, there is another one very similar. So it's my understanding that with loosening up this heat shield, it should help us. Now, I don't know, he made it look really easy on the video, but yeah, I'm gonna do a little digging here and we will see what we come up with. So stay tuned. Okay, so this is not gonna be as quick as I thought it was gonna be, which is fine. I mean, we're here to work, so we're gonna do what we need to do. It looks like that I'm gonna probably end up having to remove the throttle body assembly, some vacuum hoses. I've been in here already before because I did a throttle body service when I got the car to just kind of clean it. It's got 60,000 miles on it. It's a 95, so lots of sitting. So yeah, I'm just gonna put you on the tripod. We'll time lapse this thing. I'm not really sure what all is gonna entail, but I've seen a few different videos on YouTube that have shown some tricks and tips, but this one looks like it's gonna be a little tricky. Now, the one issue that I'm talking about here is, again, like I previously showed, the pipe inlet that houses the thermostat, the top bolt is pretty accessible, the bottom bolt is not. Now, I did remove that, the bolts for that exhaust shielding, and admittedly, man, it didn't do shit. Like, if we're just being honest, it didn't do anything. There's a video where a fellow has a 95 Buick Century and he kind of shows just how to do that, and his has a lot of flexibility. My guess is that this shield on this particular vehicle has never moved or been loosened, so it's stiff. It's very much metal and it's doing metal things, so it's not moving. So I'm gonna put you on the tripod. I don't know what to expect or what's to come out of this. We're gonna do this together. We still got plenty of daylight left outside. It's only 2:30 in the afternoon, and so yeah, let's see what happens. Okay, so we got that far. It's been a fun ride thus far, but you know, the thermostat is in and we are officially ready to rock and roll, start bleeding, and hopefully get this thing on the road. So this is a two-parter. It is a lot of footage that I filmed. So if you like what you saw, please feel free to hit that thumbs up. If you're interested, hit the subscribe, stick with me. I'm gonna try to give this a real hee-ho, and hope to see you guys on the next one. So till then, peace.